My name is Callum. I am a developer at MLabs, and in this video, I will be demoing the Cardano Transaction Library, also known as CTL, via this website, the NFT marketplace called CBUG. CTL is a library that allows you to build, balance, and submit Cardano smart contract transactions. It's similar in spirit to the Plutus application backend, but it runs in the browser. CTL enables CBUG to interact with the Cardano blockchain. And our first use of CTL in this demo will be to query the blockchain for all of the NFTs on the CBUG marketplace. So on the left here, we have the NFTs, and on the right, we can see the logs from CTL. And we're just going to focus on the blue logs because those are CTL's logs and the rest are CBUG's logs. And so the first thing that we need to understand about CTL is that it depends on a collection of services referred to as the CTL runtime. And so the first thing CTL does here is it creates a couple of connections to services in its runtime, namely Ogmios and Ogmios Datum Cache. And once it has these connections, it first queries the current protocol parameters from Ogmios, and then it is able to query for all of the UTXOs at the CBUG marketplace address. And these UTXOs hold the NFTs that are to be shown on the marketplace. And the UTXOs also have their datum hashes attached. And CTL also enables us to query for the datums corresponding to these datum hashes for the NFT UTXOs. So here we query for those datums, and we're querying that from Ogmios Datum Cache. We get those datums, and now CBUG has all of the information it needs to render the marketplace. And throughout this whole process, CTL has just provided us with a nice common interface for querying everything we need to interact with the blockchain. Okay, and next up, we will see CTL's ability to construct and submit a transaction, and we will be making a transaction that buys one of these NFTs. So I'm going to try to buy this NFT, and here we will see CTL's capability to interact with the light wallets in the browser. I'm going to be using the NAMI wallet, but CTL also supports other wallets such as Jero and Flint, and support is being added for the Load and Eternal wallets as well. So CTL here is going to use the CIP30 methods to get information such as the user's wallet address. And so we get that wallet address so we know who is actually buying this NFT, and we can construct the appropriate transaction. And I'm just going to initiate the transaction. I'm going to initiate the purchase right now. I'll start by clearing the console so that we can see what CTL is doing. And let's start the purchase. And here we'll see a bunch of logs from CTL as it goes and constructs the purchase transaction. And once the transaction is constructed, we see NAMI prompting us for a signature of the transaction. Before I sign that though, let's just take a look at what CTL has done here. So again, it starts by connecting to the necessary services. And at first here, it's just going to be CBUG querying for the various information it needs to construct the appropriate transaction to buy this NFT. And so CBUG here is just querying all of this information so that it can build a set of transaction constraints, similar to how it works in Plutus application backend. So it's just querying the information it needs to construct the constraints. So it queries for some UTXOs, queries for a datum, all of this querying being done through CTL here. And then finally we get to the part where CBUG is able to pass off its transaction constraints to CTL, and CTL will begin to construct a balanced transaction that purchases this NFT. And this is where CTL starts constructing this transaction. It starts by querying for the UTXOs at the user's wallet address, so it knows what inputs it has to work with. And now it's going to start going through its balancing algorithm, and it's going to start trying to compute the fees for the balanced transaction. And it does this by using Ogmios to evaluate the transaction and get back the execution units. And so here CTL is just going through its algorithm, trying to construct a balanced transaction that satisfies CBug's constraints. And then finally, it has calculated the fees, determined the transaction inputs and outputs, and all the other necessary information. We have a balanced transaction, and now CTL passes off that balanced transaction to the Light wallet for the user to sign. And I can look at the transaction as the user. I can see the metadata, so CTL has also helped us add in metadata to the transaction. And now I'm happy with the transaction. I can go ahead and sign it. I'll just enter my password. Now I've signed the transaction, so CTL goes ahead and submits the transaction to the blockchain via Ogmios. And we see we get a submit success response from Ogmios, so we know our purchase has gone through and will be recorded on the blockchain. Okay, so now we have used CTL to construct a balanced transaction that purchased this NFT. And throughout this whole process, CTL has also provided a lot of other critical functionality to CBug, including computing script addresses and currency symbols, providing access to information such as the current slot and protocol parameters, applying arguments to parameterized scripts, attaching metadata to transactions, and more. And lastly, I will mention that CTL provides support for automated testing of contracts on a local private testnet. And we have successfully used that at CBug to automate a lot of slow manual testing, such as testing of this purchase transaction. Okay, thanks for listening. That concludes this demo.